Hello everybody, welcome to another Wizard101 video. Today's video is going to be like a bunch of cool references that I found just questing through the spiral and stuff like that. And I just wanted to mention that there's probably going to be more references that I'm not going to mention in this video. But just let me know what those are in the comments below if you found any yourself that I did not mention in this video. Alright, so the first reference we have here is actually a reference to Star Trek, and not just Star Trek, but also electricity in general. So let me explain it. Alright, so when you get to Empyrea, like to the part where you're starting Empyrea, you go to this little place called the Dry Dock, which is where I'm at right now in the Arcanum. And not only do you have this thing right here, which I'll explain in a second if you don't know what Star Trek is, but you also have this. So if you see in the reference image on the top right, that's the Enterprise from Star Trek. It's the ship they fly around, and this kind of looks like a like an upside down version of it that they kind of turned into a balloon instead of like the giant jet thing on the bottom of the Enterprise. So they clearly modeled the ship after the Enterprise, just like kind of flipped it around and changed it into more of a vintage look. And then the next thing is Sparck. He's one of the characters that you meet on your way to Empyrea. I actually can't show you right now because obviously I've already gone to Empyrea, and so the ship is not in the dock anymore. So I can't show you Sparck, but he's one of the characters. He's Ione's brother, and he is a reference to Spock. And you'll know that if you actually do the Empyrea part, you can see his little part, and it's a lot like how Spock acts. And obviously Spock sounds the exact same. So I thought it was a pretty cool reference to Star Trek. The reason it's like in reference to electricity is because sparks and ions are both, electrical, both related to electricity. So I thought that was pretty cool too. So this thing right here is a reference to in Star Trek where they have this little device that they can use to teleport each other around, and they say the really iconic phrase, "Beam me up, Scotty." And that's what this thing is a reference to. It doesn't actually, it might work in the future or something, I don't know. I haven't done all of Empyrea, but for the time being it actually doesn't work. But that's what it's a reference to, is that part in Star Trek. So that's the reference to Star Trek and the Arcanum, the Empyrea part of it. So now we'll go to the next reference, which let me just switch the scene real quick here so I can show you some reference images to it. So this next one is a reference to a movie called Yojimbo. It's a 1961 movie, I believe, and it's about a Ronin, which is basically a samurai without a master. So if we go into my badges here, you can see my Mushu badges. If I can find Mushu, wherever Mushu is. Wow, why is that is out of order? Okay, here we are. Yojimbo right here. You get this badge from defeating a Ronin, actually. See a Ronin right there? So you actually get the badge from defeating a Ronin, and it's a pretty cool badge. Let me go ahead and make it so that everyone can see. There we go. Wait, I forgot to save it. Okay, there we go. So you can see here the Yojimbo badge. It's a reference to the movie Yojimbo, which you can see a little poster from on the side of the screen there. So I always kind of knew that that was a reference to something, but I didn't ever know what it was until I looked it up. So that was kind of cool just to have that in there as well. Let me just fix my badge now, back to the one I was using. Promethean Pet Enthusiast. Alright, so for the next reference that I have, we're actually not going to be in the Arcanum anymore. It's actually a different location. Let me go ahead and switch the scene. Alright, so this next reference is a reference to Starcraft and Starcraft 2. And it's a reference to a very, well, it was a very popular strategy in StarCraft called the Zerg Rush. So if we go here to Chrysalis in Tyrian Gorge, there's this guy here named Grush, and he looks like a little bug type thing. Kind of looks like a Zerg actually from StarCraft. So in StarCraft there's different kinds of races. There's the Protoss, there's the Zerg, there's the I think they're called Terran. I've never actually played StarCraft, but I know a little bit about it. So one of the popular strategies back in the early days of Starcraft was called Zerg, and if you see the reference image, it's basically just spamming a whole bunch of Zerg units on your opponent really quickly, so it just defeats them really, really fast and they get overwhelmed. So this little character here, Zerg, is a reference to that, obviously. And his little side quest, if you actually talk to him here. So, are we finally going to fight? Still no? Are you sure? Fine, maybe you can do me a favor. We use goat weaver milk goes, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't actually talk about anything. So that little first dialogue he has here, are we finally going to fight? That's reference to, StarCraft, like him going out and fighting as a Zerg. So I thought that was kind of cool. Okay, so the next reference I actually have is not an actual location in Wizard101 because I'm not a myth wizard, but it's a reference to Greek mythology. And there's a lot of references to Greek mythology in Wizard101, like in Aquila and stuff like that. But one of the more interesting ones is actually a spell called Mystic Colossus, and it's a spell that myth wizards actually use. They get it at level 100. It's a shadow pip spell that costs 5 regular pips and 1 shadow pip. And as you can see in the reference image on the bottom there, that's the Mystic Colossus. It's a reference to Atlas, which is a character in Greek mythology who carries the world upon his back, the globe upon his back. And a lot of Greek people thought that Atlas was holding the world up the entire time. So it's obviously, as you can see by the Mystic Colossus in the image there, it's clearly a reference to Atlas. The little boat that I have right there is, if you see the beginning of the Mystic Colossus spell, I don't actually have a GIF of it, so I can't show you that, but the Mystic Colossus, when it first comes out, it steps on a boat that's sailing, and that boat is actually the one right there that I have referenced. It's a Greek warship. And then in the background of the Mystic Colossus, you can see like this little mountain with a bunch of like white buildings on it. And that is what is called a polis, and that's Greek for city, for like a small city. And you can see it kind of has a lot of like Mediterranean and Greek architecture on the mountain there. So the whole thing's kind of a reference to Atlas, and that's kind of why I thought the flavor of the Mystic Colossus spell was really, really cool, and it's another reason why I like the spell so much. So yeah, that's just another cool little reference they added in. Then this next one is one of my favorite references in the entire game, and I'm really glad they added this. This is the Abyssal Whip. So you get this from the it's like I think it's called like the Journey Explorer bundle or something like that. And you get like this cool gauntlet where you have to go help some Polarian penguins and stuff like that. But you get this weapon with the bundle called the Abyssal Whip. And what was really cool about this is because it's actually a reference to Runescape with the Abyssal Whip. So you can see on the right there is the Abyssal Whip and the volcanic Abyssal Whip that you can get by dyeing your Abyssal Whip in Runescape. And the Abyssal Whip is probably one of the most recognizable weapons in all of Runescape to a lot of players, just because it's like kind of regarded as like the end game weapon because it's so good. And when players get the Abyssal Whip in RuneScape, they basically become like the best they can possibly be, and it makes them really feel like they're good at it. So I'm pretty proud that I was actually able to get the Abyssal Whip in RuneScape. And it is a really good weapon. So it's a really iconic one as well. And so it's cool how Wizard101 referenced it with the Abyssal Whip. And I just thought that was a really cool little reference they did there. And there's not really any like specific parts of the whip itself that are direct references to RuneScape, other than the fact that it's a whip. But the name of it, obviously, Abyssal Whip, and then the RuneScape one being named the Abyssal Whip, it's pretty clear that it's a reference to RuneScape. So I definitely really want this weapon, but I don't really want to spend that much money on a bundle just for the weapon, though I do think it's really cool. So that was a really cool reference as well. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching this video, and thanks for watching my previous video. There's a lot more content coming in the future. This is kind of just episode 1, because I know there's going to be a lot more references in the future that I'm going to miss. But thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.